Moya was the oldest of Frank and Thelma's children, born in 1925. She would marry Gerry Ryan in 1947 and have two sons, Tim and Shane. And we will hear now from Moya's family, her younger brother and sisters, Peter, Ann, Estelle, and her husband John, as they recall Moya and Gerry's life together in a conversation captured in July 2021.
Moya went to Vaucluse, but she only went for a couple of years, didn't she?
Well, she was a lovely-looking girl.
Yes.
And she used to have lovely things in her wardrobe, and I wanted always to try on her clothes.
And she always knew.
And I used to be trying so carefully to put them back. And at that stage, it must have been ribbons. I remember, and she'd always have lots of nice ribbons, and you could wear them across your head like that somehow. But I always got caught. But Moya was 8 years older than I was, you see, so she was really old.
And also, I remember Mum putting all those sequins on a dress for her to go out to a ball.
Yes. No, she was a very pretty lady, and she had a good time when the Americans were here.
She did.
She was always out, and she had, and they had great time, and they'd come home and they'd, have a chat.
The Jeep.
And they'd have a Jeep and big boxes of Darrelly chocolates.
They were so generous.
And they had a lovely time. But no, Moya was a very attractive lady, and she did have lots of fun, I think, really.
Yes.
Went out a bit.
Oh, help yes.
But she had boyfriends. They'd come and, but, it was just, just friends. And of course, Dad wouldn't. He'd be there with the clock to see what time it was.
Yes, it was time to go.
She went to work.
Abel Lemons. And she was a telephonist.
Receptionist. And she was...
good at remembering the telephone numbers.
No, I've never had.
She had to.
She became engaged to an American sailor. I think he was an officer, because a lot of American ships came in, and she fell completely head over heels in love with this guy.
Yes,
and he promised her everything, marriage, and she began to get. When he left, she began to get ready for marriage. We're talking about going to America to live. She never heard from him again.
Because one of her friends, Jessie Hunt, she married him, Walter. He was an American, you see, and I think they used to be, Moya and Jessie were friends.
And I think that Dad didn't want it to be happening.
Oh, no.
No, they weren't allowed.
But I think it was such a blow to Moya.
And I think they got the clergy to pray that they wouldn't go away.
I think it shattered her for a long, long time.
But we all liked to get a ride in the Jeep. It was all exciting, wasn't it?
Yes, we would love that. All that chocolate.
And this fellow, I remember a couple of them. I think we had our name down at St Francis or somewhere, and they'd come out to our place, and I got a book from one of them, Little Women, and I can remember those.
Later on, after the war was over, Dad got a letter from one of the men, the Americans who had come, and he addressed the letter, Frank Carrucan, somewhere in Melbourne. And he got it. Yeah.
So where did Moya meet Gerry? And how did they pair up?
I don't know. He played tennis.
Yeah, it might have been played through. I have no idea. Moya was as good a sport, particularly basketball. And so even the priest at Sacred Heart remembered her because of the basketball.
Gerald worked at a
menswear
store in Malvern.
Yes.
And his Auntie
Polly
used to come and visit us.
His mother died.
Yeah.
And his father knew where he was.
And I remember, and he was a tennis player, and I played tennis a couple of times with him. And then he gave me, I was so thrilled, a tennis racket bag,
Yes, I remember that.
And it was a leather.
That's it, and I remember having it
and
after
it had a zip around it.
Yep.
It was such a...
And I got a tennis racket.
So clever to have that. And
Yes.
I thought I was
never had anything new.
Yes, I took it to
When did Moya and Gerry get married?
Got married in
on a very cold day.
1949.
It was very cold.
July. It was in July.
Down at the Immaculate Conception in
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, where our mother and father were married, you see.
And your brother Paul was married at
Yes, it did later on. Yes.
And they had the reception in Burwood. Oh, I forgot my name.
And I remember I had this dress, I was the bridesmaid with Aileen Ryan, Gerald's sister, and we had this lacy top and it had a peplin at the back that was at the back of your dress here. I remember Will coming up and saying you should have that peplin up on your shoulders because it's bloody cold. You know, we had sleeveless dresses.
In July it was.
In July. It's freezing. But you know.
I had a nice...
I remember there was a telegram. In those days, telegrams were read out at a wedding party, and there was a telegram from the Minister for Immigration, Arthur Corwell, and he said, "Congratulations, I can't populate Australia on my own."
That was very true.
That was Gerry Ryan. Gerry was a relative by marriage, and he was a member of Parliament here, and he was full of fun.
Yes.
So he made it up.
And then Gerry got into milk bars, is that
Gerry was working one time. But first, before that, he was in menswear.
That's right.
And
Yes, I remember that. But I could see that he could see that if he wanted to make any kind of progress, he had to get out of that and do something for himself. So that's how he got into milk bars.
Yes, and he was selling milk bars then.
Started
He worked in milk bars and then he had one at Brighton.
That's right, at Bay Street.
Yes.
Yes, I remember walking to Mass with him on a Sunday morning in Brighton.
Bay Street.
And he said, whatever you do at church, whatever you do, don't cough, don't yawn, and don't go to sleep, because the priest will stop.
Stop it.
And he did, that was true. All the people knew it.
We had that.
And milk bar in Burke
and you
Road.
wrapped up the cigarettes in brown paper. When the
And
cigarettes
And
came
he used to make chocolate ice cream out of worn out chocolate or faded chocolate, and just stick them boil them up, and then get the wafers. They used to have those little white wafers, and put them into the chocolate and sell them. Chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, I can remember this.
Anyway.
But the other thing about Gerald, though, is he gave Gavin his start. By taking Gavin into partnership, he gave him a chance to save some money, and so that when he did meet up with Gwen, he had some amount of capital behind him to at least branch out on his to buy a house, and then to get a different kind of job.
In 2003, Bernie McGee visited Moya in Portsea to capture some family stories that were collected for her sister Anne's 70th birthday. The video and audio quality are not the best, but here we can hear Moya talk about her own life.
I got married from 80 Avenue. Married 56 years.
Where did you get married?
Immaculate Conception, when Mother and Dad got married.
Oh.
Father Burke married me too. Us too. And married Dad. Mum and
Goodness
Dad.
gracious.
There you go. Yeah, I love that kind of a world.
And who was in your wedding party? What did
Aileen,
your
Gerry's
sisters?
sister.
Yeah.
And Teddy, his brother. And Dennis, I think, Desmond.
Yes, and Anne.
And Anne. We lasted 56 years. And down here, 26.
Yeah, that was
I loved it. I loved it.
that was a big break coming down here because it was pretty.
Yeah, well, Gerry retired, see?
Yeah.
And then he dabbled quite a lot with Max Printers. He was always had that selling bug in him.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think he did most of his trading in the front bar of the Puna Hotel.
Yeah, that's right. In your hotel. How Gerry wanted to have another room built upstairs.
To get a view.
No, because we had a billiard table at Kew, and he loved billiards every Saturday night.
Yeah, that's
these billiards were on.
Yeah.
And of course it was all lined up for billiards. It had a fridge in it, and it had everything.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Right.
And you have about 5 or 6 people.
Moya would die on the 17th of September 2008 in Portsea.